progress and responsibility, to potential, to the propaganda of lack, to what we could actually be. Let's talk about progress, or as Tony Robbins puts it, the main key towards happiness, or as Earl Nightingale puts it, the steady progression of a worthy ideal. That's how they define success. And success then becomes the key to happiness. And by success, we aren't talking about bank accounts full of money and extra houses in the Caribbean. What we are talking about is something each one of us determines for ourselves. Each day, each moment, we are talking about something no outside force decides for us, but something we decide in the here and now. Are we making progress? And what is our potential? And why are we living in a world, or propagandized in a world that subverts our potential every step of the way? Through convenience, endless distractions, celebrating a victim mentality, promoting pornography and fear and limitation like they're the latest craze at Fashion Week. 'Cause the truth is we won't find out who we are until we have to. Until responsibility is breathing down our back or pinning us to a wall, as the world is begging us to fall. And most of us have a sad story to tell, with a highlight reel of dysfunction from our past. Stories with a laundry list of abuses and betrayals, excuses that other excuse makers will reward you for taking in the poisons together that numb the pain away, yet still can't quite obliterate the soul inside, yearning for you to become who you actually are. What a strange funhouse we've all been born into, and getting stranger all the time. With AI coming fast and furious, which is threatening to do every conceivable human task, seemingly way better than we can. As if our potential or our road of progress and happiness wasn't already hard enough to find. Now we have super intelligent, superior beings in certain ways to contrast, compare, and compete against, with limitless new destructive pleasures on the offer that can level us into sagging bags of mediocrity, hedging towards madness and rooted firmly in depression, being sprayed by who knows what, being fed artificial sludge and even maybe insects. But I won't be eating those, no sir, thank you very much. But what are we being fed though? And not just physically but mentally. What is our actual potential? And none of this laundry list of madness even brings up the power of a relationship with God and prayer, which, along with massive personal responsibility egging on a deep desire to change the nature of reality, is the only thing that can potentially save us from this vortex of insanity we call life on planet Earth. So why is it set up like this, seemingly impossible and becoming more so? Well, now for the good news. I think it's set up like this because our potential to not only shape our own world, to dramatically change our own world for the better is beyond what we could imagine, but our potential to change the entire world is also beyond what we could imagine. It starts with ourselves, because we are in a plane that has been going down for many years now. But that doesn't mean that we have to crash with it. What it does mean is that we have to put on our own oxygen mask before we can help others get theirs on. So how do we do that? First and foremost, we recognize the propaganda and the forces at work built in to keep us down, and recognize that our ability to think for ourselves has been attacked and perverted to a degree that is most likely no longer recognizable to our authentic selves. We learn to see that almost all, if not all, the forces of self-empowerment have been demonized for this very reason. That the forces of subjugation and control that are blatantly surrounding us and submerging us are far more afraid of our potential than most of us even believe in our own potential. In other words, the dark forces of this world believe in you more than you most likely do. They've set up an intricate cage to keep you away from you. And we have to recognize to learn without calling it a conspiracy theory, which is also part of the intricate design keeping you away from you. That's part of the ingenious cage most of us are locked into, calling critical thinking a form of lunacy. That's not an accident, baby. And to recognize that means you stop believing in the lies keeping you away from you and start flipping the logic of the world upside down. Because when you live in an upside down world, to find the truth, just flip its logic upside down, and you are then at least in the ballpark of the truth. We are built to have families, to take on terrifying responsibilities, to find God to help us battle sinful natures which create chaos and destruction and drama and noise that leads us deeper in the cage of fractured identities rooted in limitation and lack. But with a relationship to God and the power of prayer and heavy responsibility weighing on our shoulders, we have no choice but to lean into our potential, which means thinking critically, which means becoming impossible to control, and which means lighting up the world and setting legions of other people free by your example, which means you will be demonized and called names long before you actually become a real threat to the status quo, and before you even have the strength of character to really handle the attack. Which brings us back to God and the supernatural strength it takes to achieve breaking free. Because God is the ultimate red pill. So we learn to look at this world or web of intricately designed discouragements as evidence of our actual potential to do far more and be far more than what we could have ever imagined. We are like diamonds being squeezed by insane polarities, or rather, we are like coal being shaped into diamonds by a pressure so extreme, but a pressure that is also deeply challenging to find. Because left to our own devices and the logic and the gravity of this world, we won't make it to the pressure at all. The world itself encourages its own gravity and guides you away from the pressure like a sociopathic manipulator from the opposite polarity of divinity that can shape you into your potential. But once that opposite polarity of the divine is found and surrendered to, the dark nature of the world gets converted back into God's design, applying adequate pressure to shape us into our potential of supercharged beings that can add light and the way for others. But to do that, we have to wake up, we have to find our responsibility, and we have to find God, and then stand against the pressure of the world long before we become diamonds. Which brings us back to progress and why progress is in fact happiness, because happiness isn't escape, it isn't hedonism, money or fame or dopamine triggers brought on by social media. Happiness is progress towards the pressure cooker of our soul's expansion. Because no amount of distractions or lies can obliterate the divine potential housed in us all. And as extreme as the world is, it is merely a reflection of how extreme our potential is. And that potential is in every single one of us. Imagine this world where we all recognize that. It's breathtaking to think about. If we all turn on our lights, the darkness doesn't stand a chance.